Welcome everyone. In this video we will continue our work with the Arduino and the serial communication. So here we will create a software which is similar to the serial terminal of the Arduino software, but we will make our own serial terminal. And in this part of the series, which is the second part, we just create a very simple window which will be able to send and receive data in between the computer and the Arduino. So we have Microsoft Visual Studio. You can download it for free from Microsoft. You just need a Microsoft account. That's all, and then you can proceed. So I will code this project in C#. So first of all, we just create a new project, and then this project should be a Windows form app. So we select that and we just make something. So this will be the name, and then we have a form. So this is like the visual part of the code or the software, and then we can open the code, and as we can see there is nothing inside, so we will have to implement everything. So first of all, let's do everything which we can do visually. So we want to have a serial communication, and then we have to add that. So on the left hand side we have this toolbox, and you see that there are many things here. So we search something which is serial port, so we just drag and drop here. So this will enable us to have serial communication with this software. And you can see on the right corner that there are some data, but we will define our own stuff later. So we will define the baud rate, the data bits, the port name and everything. So this is not important for us. So what we want to have, that we would like to be able to select the ports, because what if there are many USB connections occupied by different hardware, and you want to select the Arduino and not select your USB sound card, for example. So for this we need a so-called combo box, which is basically a drop-down list. So we put it here, and we go to the right corner and we give a name for this combo box, and this is important because we will assign the instructions for this name. So let's give some meaningful name to it. So for example, available ports box. So we will know that this box is referring to the available ports. So let's put it here. We can use a label, and this is just to make it easier. So here we just modify the text, and we know that this stuff will tell us the available ports. And then we need a button, because once we select the thing from we select the port from the drop-down list, we will use a button to actually connect to it. So we put it just here. First we give the text that will be, let's say, connect, and then we also have to give some meaningful name to it. So what we do here is we name it in the design, and then let's call that connect to port, like this. So we are done with this, and we remember that we have a text box which is for the data that we receive. So first of all, let's give some name to it. So let's use some meaningful name. Received data box, for example. And here we want to modify this into multi-line, because then we can have this. And we can also try to search for scroll bars and add some vertical scroll bars, so we can scroll the text. So again, we can have a label, put it here, and just give a text, like, to make it fancy. So now add another label and call it command. This is just to see what we are working. And we need another text box which will contain the commands. So we have this guy here. Yeah, make it longer a bit. And this will be our command text box basically. So we can search for the name for the design and call it sender text box. We are done with this, and we need another button because we want to push something to send the actual data. So in the design, let's call it send serial button. So we send the serial, send something to the serial port, and then this will be just simply send. So we have this, and now we want to make everything work. So how do we make the buttons work? So if we double click them, then there will be a function assigned to them, basically an event handler like this. So this means that if you click on the connect port button, then something will happen, and we can go to here to the send and do the same. So if we click on the send serial button, then something will happen that we need to implement. And I want to implement one more thing. We have to select the form, so click somewhere on the form just once, and then we have this events here with the lightning, and form closing should be selected. So double click in this field, and then we have an event here when we close the form, and here we will implement something which will close the serial port when we close the window. This is important because otherwise the Arduino is not connected. So every time before you start this software, you will have to restart your Arduino. So yeah, this is important. And here let's start some coding. So we will use the serial port, so we will have to use another stuff here, which is the I/O ports. So we just simply start typing and ports. So this is, sorry, serial port handling, and then we can write a function, because first what we want to do is when we start this software, we want to get the available ports, so COM1, 2, 3, whatever. So we go back here, and then we make a function here. So let's call it fetch available ports. And then what we do is we make an array with the ports. So, and of course it's a string, and we call it ports, and then this should be the serial port dot get port names. So this is this guy here down there. So this serial port which we included in the beginning, that is handled here. So we get the available COM ports and put it in this ports variable, right? And then we have this available ports box. So, and it's a combo box, so it has items, and we add it to the range, and we add it to the ports. And then we have to add this function to the form one. So when we start the form, then we will get the ports, and I can immediately show you, I hope. So we started it, and we see the ports. And in fact, the COM6 is our port now, which is the Arduino. So far we are okay. So we saw that we can fetch the available ports. So let's choose one of these ports and connect to it, and then communicate with the Arduino. So first of all, we have to create the serial port that we want to connect to. So we just create a variable for that. So this, and let's call it ser port, just to make it short. And we also know that we want to connect, we want to receive the serial data. So we want to receive data from the serial port. So let's make a variable, or create a variable for the receive data. And then this is like this. All right, so we connect this, we click this button which will connect us to the port. So something should happen here. So first let's make this ser port into a new serial port. Okay, we have a new serial port here. And then if you remember, then we have these different things, details for the serial port, so we can hard code that. So just to make it easy, then I do like this. So for example, baud rate should be defined, and that's the same as for the Arduino, of course, otherwise we cannot communicate with it. And then we want to know the port name, which is basically the available ports box content. So we have to make this into text, and since this is already a string, we don't have to care about this, because if you see that we had this as a string, so you can add this part, but it's not necessary, just an extra stuff if you really want to make sure. And then we want to set the parity, and then that is none, and then the data bits, and then that is 8, and then we have the stop bits, which is 1. So this is okay. We can have the read buffer size, and then that can be like a really large number. And now comes a very important part. So we do something when data is received. So we will create a new event handler, and then that is done by this part. And you see that the compiler or the environment says that this is red because something is wrong. So we have to check the potential fixes, and actually the first is very good because it creates a new method for us and we need that. So we will do that. But before leaving this part, we try to open the port, because what happens here is when we connect, then we try to open the port which is selected in the drop-down list. So let's try to open this, and then that's again very simple, like this. And then we can make an exception just to make sure that if something is wrong, then we take care of that. And well, actually we can put it here. So exception, and call it ex, and then the ex dot message is that we have an error. That's all. So we handled this. So then we left from the data received, so we have to see what happens when we receive a data. That's very simple. So we want to put it in the variable which we created here. So we want to put it in a string. Then we see that then okay, the received data strings value is basically the serial port, the line that we read from the serial port. So then it's very obvious because it's like self-explanatory names. So read the line from the serial port. Pretty simple. And then we make a delegate here, and this will be important because we have to do something with that stuff. Whenever we receive something, we create a new action, and let's process the data. So again, we created something, a method here, which is obviously not here. So we create a new method and we implement that. So what should happen when we receive the data and we have it in a variable? Well, we want to put it here and display it on this in this field. So that's very simple, because we know that that's the text box which we named as receive data box, which is here, and we know that we want to change the text of it. So then this will be basically the received data, but let's convert it to string just to make sure that it will be string. And let's add a line break, because whenever a new a new line or new information comes from the Arduino, then we want to print it in a new line. But if you see that here there is an equation sign which is wrong, because if we leave it like this, then the first line is being printed from the first data, which by the first data which comes from the Arduino. But when the next line comes, then the first line is getting overwritten. So therefore, we want to append the text. So we want to really put it in a new line. So we do like this. So this is done. So what should be done more? So okay, we can receive data, but we cannot send data. So somehow we want to send the content of this box by pressing this button to the Arduino, right? So that is basically done with this method here. And what we want to do is send the content of that box to the Arduino. So we want to do this and write. And what we write here. So of course the sender textbox.text, and to be on the safe side, we convert it to string. So basically this sends the data of the content. This sends the content of the text box here. So this is done. We are almost done basically. We just want to make sure that this is implemented. So let's tell what this does again. So when we click the X here and we close the form, then something should happen. And what should happen here is basically that we try to close the serial port. So again, and we can write a catch, but in this case we leave it empty because we don't care if we don't close it. We just do this. Just a little bit clean up. So variables are done. This is done, and seems like everything is done. So now we can try to run our program. So far it's good. So let's connect to it by the COM6, that's my Arduino. Oh, we managed. So we got the same message that we expect from the Arduino code. And then we see what we can do. So let's try the mirror first. So that was like M as mirror. We hit a space, and then let's try like this. So we sent it, and it appears here as a reply. But let's make it more fancy. So we add two numbers, 2 and 3, just to have it in a simple form. And we have to click send, and the result is 5. So now we can count to 10. So now we will count to 10. So as you can see, I have to scroll manually, but you can make it into automatic as well. So you see that we counted to 10 and it's done. So what else is left? So we can receive formatted data. So if you remember, there was something like a number, and then another number, and then another number. So that was in the code. So now we just send this small d, and we will start receiving data. So you see the scroll bar is shrinking, and we have the data, and we receive it. So of course we want to stop it, so we send an S character there. We go down, it's stopped. So this is all what we have now. So it works perfectly as it should work, and it does the same as the Arduino software's terminal, but in this case we made our own software, and you can see that we can get the data. So I think for this video this was all. I will upload the code for this project, but I suggest you to follow my video like in real time and try to type the same things that I type, because then yeah, you memorize everything in a better way. And since I'm not a programmer, I believe that this can be done in a better way, but for me it works and it does the job, so it's fine for me. And in the next video then I will move on with this part where we have the formatted data. So we will process this data, assign each column to a variable, and we will fill up the different variables with this data, and then we will visualize these values on a chart. So that will be the next part of this project. So I hope you learned something, and I hope this was useful for you. And see you in the next video, where we will create a chart and visualize all the data. So see you.